What is up, everybody? Today we will be talking about why everyone in the NBA hates James Harden. But first off, if you enjoy the video, please just like the video on YouTube. Y'all helps me out a ton. And subscribe if you enjoy daily sports content. I cover the NBA, the NFL, college football, and college basketball. So now let's talk about why everybody hates James Harden, y'all. So James Harden, we all know him. You love him or you hate him. And honestly, the majority of people hate him, it seems like. Most of the stuff I've seen online is like, no, we don't want James Harden on Miami Heat. No, we don't want him on the Houston Rockets. I mean, not the Houston Rockets. No, we don't want him on the Toronto Raptors. No, we don't want him on the Boston Celtics. No, we don't want him on the Nets. There's lots of negative feedback to a potential James Harden trade. And this has led me, to ask and answer the question, why do teams not want James Harden / why do fans not want James Harden? So now I came up with a list of 5 reasons why teams and fans do not want James Harden on their team. This is more of a fan aspect, as I'm sure, actual NBA GMs are much more, in depth with this stuff. So we're going to start off with this is in no particular order, We're going to start off with number 5, his strip club activities and social life. So, I have nothing against NBA players going to a strip club every now and then. I hope they, enjoy themselves, tip generously, seeing as how they are rich. There's nothing wrong with that. With James Harden, it has become a bit of a meme at this point, honestly. Just him going to strip clubs, partying with Lil Baby and Meek Mill. But it appears to be more and more that the issue here is that he's, wants to go to strip clubs more than he actually wants to go to practice, apparently. It's what it looked like in the preseason time frame. And then in terms of just like statistically, James Harden performs worse at his worst in cities with the most strip clubs, i.e. Miami. That is like, I'm not even joking, that's just a statistic I saw somewhere, y'all. James Harden does not do good in cities with big strip clubs, which obviously is problematic for certain cities. But on the whole, it just is, somewhat concerning, to be quite honest. And it's even more concerning now during the COVID-19 pandemic. Karl Anthony Towns lost 8 members of his family to COVID, I believe, including his mom. Now imagine how he feels when he sees James Harden partying out there with strippers, with no masks on. I'd imagine he doesn't feel too good about that. And obviously, I'm not a huge Karl Anthony Towns fan, but I'd be perfectly fine if he ripped off an MVP level season or something like that after what's happened to him. So that's the number 5 reason, teams and players don't like James Harden. Teams and fans don't like James Harden. So number 4 reason is his throwing of fits. And when I say this, I'm referencing the report where he threw a ball at a rookie. And just the fact that he's never, been told no by the Houston Rockets organization. Now, what does this tell me? It tells us that we have a very spoiled player in James Harden. A player that has likely not really been exposed to discipline ever since he became a superstar. Now, trying to keep your superstar happy is obviously, very important, especially if you are a smaller market team such as Houston. Now, let's look at a team such as, say, the Bucks. The Bucks managed to keep Giannis happy. They surrounded him with decent talent, and he re-signed with them. That is one level to keeping players happy. The next level is just doing whatever they want and not saying no to them at all, and that's what is going on in Houston here. It looks to me like there's a very bad culture going on in Houston here, and one that needs to change, and one that likely will not be able to change until James Harden is out of the team, which could be difficult, seeing as how there are 5 reasons on why most people / fans don't want him on their team. So that's the number 2 reason, is his, throwing of fits, etc. Number 3, his lack of defense. Now, James Harden is actually not awful on defense. This is just, a common perception. He is a very good post defender because of all the body weight he has on him. In terms of just perimeter defense, though, he is not exactly amazing. Okay? And it's just leads to the perception that he is, just not good at defense as a whole, which is false. He's not amazing at defense, but he is decent at defense. This is just a perception, and I believe that if he was put, in a right situation, he would do a lot better. The question is, what situation is that? So, now we will be talking about his playoff failures, which is a very big reason for lots of teams, I believe. James Harden has never made it past the Western Conference Finals. Which you can say, sure, there are tons of, good players that have never made it past the Western Conference Finals. And to that I say James Harden has never made it past the Western Conference Finals without choking. I believe everyone here remembers Game 7 of the 2017 NBA Finals, I believe. Might have been 2018, where the Rockets missed like 20 straight threes in a row. James Harden has just never traditionally experienced a ton of success in the playoffs, which has led to the perception of him being a choker. Quite honestly, I just don't really know what to think of this, honestly. I don't really pay a ton of attention to the Rockets playoffs, and honestly, there are several separate reasons for the, said choking, which could include injuries to both Russell Westbrook and Chris Paul. But ultimately, at the end of the day, teams are going to be wary of taking on an MVP level player that has not had any playoff success. So the number one reason that teams don't want James Harden on their roster, and people / fans don't want him on their team, is his play style. If you've never watched James Harden play an NBA game, I highly recommend you do, because it'll be an eye-opening experience for you. This man will take 20 step-back threes without hesitation, even if only 2 or 3 of them go in. He is the definition of a toxic ISO player. He will just dribble, shoot, all right? Now, there's another element to his game that gets talked about, and that is free throws. He will drive into the paint and attempt to draw a foul. This man's draw foul is on a 99, people. He's very good at drawing his fouls. I believe a large majority of his points do come from fouls. It's just a very aggravating play style, especially when you're trying to, have other players that can actually contribute on your team, such as, say, Russell Westbrook and Chris Paul. One reason they might have never succeeded is because neither of those guys were perfect fits, and because, James Harden was just eating up too many touches. We won't know that until, James Harden gets traded to a new team, in my opinion, at least. Now, you might have heard this entire list and be thinking, hey, there are lots of other players that fit these, definitions, I guess. Guys that do the same things that James Harden do, but don't get hated on. Why is that? Well, let's talk about that. So for starters, we'll go to, say, lack of defense. Nikola Jokic also has a lack of defense. I think we can all agree upon that. However, in terms of Nikola Jokic, he just does so much more for his team. He can rebound extremely well, Nikola Jokic can. He is a playmaker. He is a center, too. In terms of, he is just, in my opinion, a better overall player than James Harden. Okay? Throwing fits. Who's another player that threw fits before? Jimmy Butler threw lots of fits. And this is the one that is subjective, in my opinion. We won't know if James Harden was, deserving in throwing those fits until he gets traded to a separate team. Because then we might see if he succeeds with the other team and claims it's all about hard work, then he was not right, but he had an excuse to throw those fits. As we saw Jimmy Butler throwing the Minnesota Timberwolves fits, and then, promptly leaving the 76ers, he just needed to be in the right environment, and that environment was Miami, a team that had hard work that could support him. So in terms of playoff failures, this one was a bit tricky to me. I decided to go with Giannis at the end of the day. So why is Giannis not hated for his playoff failures? Well, because he plays defense. He is willing to give up the ball, even if he is not, a natural-born playmaker. I do not, see Giannis launching tons of step-back threes or ill-advised shots in general in the playoffs. While he may have a reduced impact, it is still generally a somewhat positive impact, compared to James Harden, where he may occasionally have the negative impact, which can sink a team. Next up, play style. So I wondered about this one for a little bit, and I decided to go with 2 different players to represent both the idea of free throws and the idea of ISO. So in terms of free throws, I decided to go with LeBron James. Now, why do people not hate LeBron James for all of the free throws that he takes? Some people do. But in terms of Lakers fans, they have to look and say, This man play makes first, and this man will drive into the paint. He generally takes smart shots, and if he is hot, the entire team gets carried, which is similar to James Harden. However, in terms of LeBron, LeBron is taking much smarter shots in my opinion, and is just a better, overall player in terms of playmaking, rebounding, and defense. So next up, his social life. So this was another, oh, I forgot that I said we were going to talk about two guys for playstyle. So the second guy for playstyle, Steph Curry. Now, this is just kind of going to be this season, but I assume that they're going to let, Steph Curry ISO more. Quite honestly, because there are no other, reliable options on that Warriors team. Why do people not hate Steph Curry because of that? Because he's efficient. Because he is taking smart shots in general. That's a pretty weak example, honestly. But that's the best one I personally could come up with. So y'all, I want you to let me know down in the comments below if you could come up with, a better example for who ISOs in the NBA besides just James Harden straight up. Last, but certainly not least, we have the strip club / social life aspect of James Harden's life. And for this one, ultimately at the end of the day, I decided to go with Lou Will. Why? Because Lou Will was also seen in a strip club during the COVID pandemic during the early bubble days. Why do people not hate Lou Will for this? Because he's effective on offense. And because he has not had any, sustainable playoff failures. Now, granted, he has not been in the same role that James Harden has. However, at the same time, I haven't seen Lou Will putting up any, 2 for 13, 3 for 14 games in the playoffs. And he has a much more comfortable play style in terms of, the entire team as a whole. So ultimately, at the end of the day, what can we conclude from this? James Harden, as a player, has many undesirable aspects. Now, one or two of those undesirable aspects in an individual player might lead to a team taking a risk. However, all 5 of the aspects I mentioned happening in one player resulted in James Harden, an incredibly skilled player who ultimately, at the end of the day, likely will not get traded due to the fact that he's just undesirable to some teams due to his social life, his play style, his failures, just throwing fits, and a perceived lack of defense. So that is it on, James Harden hate hour. So y'all, I want you to let me know down in the comments below if you like this video, if you don't like the video, just what you think I could improve, what you think about James Harden, anything at all. And, I said it before, like the video if you enjoyed this video, and comment on the video, I said that already. And subscribe if you enjoy daily sports content. I'm trying to hit 100 subs, and it would be pretty cool, not gonna lie. That would be my life achievement. So without further ado, farewell, y'all, until I see you all again.